Another cow.
Actually, I think that was the same one.
Hi, I'm Sophie, and I haven't seen a lot of movies.
Hi, I'm Paul, and I'm here to help with that. And we are
SP Film Viewers. Okay.
yes.
Are you a Death Eater?
No, that is a clue of the film we're going to be talking about today, or a very poor representation of
Blowing?
No, the film isn't called Blow, or Breathing Heavily, or
Some weird man. Is it going to be something scary?
no. Well, as a natural disaster film.
Oh, okay. Not some
Scary.
creep at the end of your bed, like making weird breathing noises.
No.
Okay.
This is a film from 1996, and it is called Twister.
Are they making another one of that?
They have done last year.
Oh,
Twisters, seen posters for it. I'm thinking a bit late in the day to be fully to follow up, but here we are. They were not going to be covering that one, and I don't know as to why there was such a big gap between the two and what that's going to offer, other than maybe improved special effects.
Would that be nearly 20 years? No, it wouldn't have been 20 years, would it?
Yeah, almost, I think. Yeah. This is something that's come through on the rental disc service I got. Mainly, I wanted to re-watch it again, I hadn't seen it in quite a long time. One, it's something a bit different in terms of like an action film, I suppose. And to see how the special effects hold up. Put it on a 4K disc, so to see how that's, because it's noted about like how the colours are more accurate of like when the storms hit, because they have that green effect when the storm's actually approaching for a twister tornado.
Never seen one, thankfully.
No, we've never seen one, so I don't take the word for it, but just see how that improves. But.
So basically, in a nutshell, you want to watch it because you've got a 4K version of it, is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm renting a 4K version, I haven't bought it, so...
Okay,
yeah,
I'll stop sassing you then.
Yeah. And just to see how it all holds up, really.
But it's a Valentine's Day month now. Like, you're aware of this.
There's a love story involved.
Is there?
Sort of.
No,
Rekindling of
but
love.
are you actually saying this? Like, because I remember you took me into Deadpool and you said that.
That did outright in the film say it was a story of love.
Yeah, but it wasn't really, was it?
Well, I guess this one isn't really either, but...
But is it more than what Deadpool was?
No.
Right. So you're basically clutching at straws, aren't you?
Well, that was not the intention for this being a romantic...
We agreed, like...
No.
This is what we said, the month of February, month of love.
No, we
didn't. Agreed.
No, we didn't.
We did.
No.
We did.
But Perfect Days wasn't really a love story, was it? Except for his love of cleaning toilets.
True, but was that actually in Feb?
Yes, he got launched. So, yeah.
Was that the first, though?
Yes.
It doesn't really count. That's like still jam in my head.
Technicalities.
Yeah.
Things to note, that the director of this, he's only done a few films, and one of them we have done on the podcast before, which was Speed, with Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock.
Yeah.
There was, I believe that was his first.
To do with the bus?
Film. Yeah, the bus that couldn't slow down. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like a couple of years after this came out.
Okay.
So, it's got Helen Hunt in, you may...
She looks familiar, yeah.
You might know her from... Not going to take assumptions here, but like some like What Women Want. The Mel Gibson.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Vaguely.
Bill Paxton, who's passed away.
Who's he in this, sorry?
He's one of the leads.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they're two main
right.
of the, like, on the poster, basically.
Of the rom-com poster.
Yeah, they're on. Yeah, they're on tornado film. Yeah, and a couple of other people when it's getting to the film you'll recognise. So the synopsis reads as follows: 2 storm chasers on the brink of divorce must work together to create an advanced weather alert system by putting themselves in the crosshairs of extremely violent tornadoes.
Getting divorced, Paul. You said it was a love story.
Well,
That's not very nice, is it? I don't feel like that's like, I already know that they're getting divorced. I already know they're probably going to die in a twister. What's the point?
I say it's not that kind of... Maybe I'll tell you now.
Should I even get invested in these characters?
No, for the time came out in the 90s, they're kind of playing it safe, so...
Okay.
Right. So, try not to get blown away
But I'm just...
from watching Twister. Let's go check out.
Jonas, this is Joe. Can you hear me?
Not now, Harding.
Jonas, listen to me. The pack is too light. The twister will toss it before it reaches the core. You have to anchor it.
Oh, sharing valuable information, Joe. Okay, I'll consider that. Thank you.
Jonas, listen to me. Don't be... What? Can you see them?
And we're back. We survived Twister.
Oh, I was expecting something else. A bit more,
What?
more wind blowing or
Oh,
something.
you want to do it again? There it goes. It's dwindled.
Oh, it's diverted off into a different...
breed. Yeah, that's
okay,
it. Yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah. So what did you think of what's clearly like a 90s blockbuster film?
Yeah, 100%. Which, obviously, I'm a 90s baby. I'd have been 4 when this came out. A lot of, what's he called now? Tasmanian devils, like, just
Spinning around.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I've never really probably seen a disaster film on as a tornado. Obviously, The Wizard of Oz comes into my mind. That's the only thing.
And that's why in this there's the tornado recording equipment they have the nickname Dorothy because
Should have had some little red shoes on.
They had a picture of her on one of the
Yeah, they did.
the models, but
And as well, it kind of makes you think of Dorothy with the dog because there was a dog called Toby as well. Which I'm sure
I think it was the same breed of dog. I think they purposely
and I'm
picked
sure
that.
it's called Toby.
No, it's Toto.
Toto.
Yeah.
Damn it.
I think that might have been too on the nose.
But it was literally
Yeah.
the same dog, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the same dog breed, yeah.
I remember the opening scene and I was like, I swear to God, if this dog doesn't get in this bunker,
Yeah, you were like,
I'm not watching it.
What about Toby?
Yeah, I was devastated. I was like, she's going, Toby. I'm thinking, Paul, literally, you're going to be turning it off in 10 seconds if they don't open that door back up for that dog.
Yeah, again, playing it safe.
Well, true. Because, like, John Wick didn't, every 2 minutes want a dog getting shot or something.
That was the whole thing behind that. The whole
I was just like, I can't.
incident of that, yeah.
Like,
occurring.
Once a dog's dead, I'm like, if it's an innocent creature, like, it's not done anything wrong, would have annoyed me. So I'm glad it didn't go down that path. I do think, though, the dad would have not got blown away if he'd have just not
Step back
and gone where
It's
Joe
like-
was
like-
and Toby and
yeah.
the mum.
It's like, don't be a hero.
Just all crouched down and they would have been fine, probably.
Or just done a better job barricading the door.
Yeah, they could have had a bigger lock.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
But
Not
again,
maybe like
then again, wow, we don't really have like bunkers to harbour down in, do we? We never have the situations where it's that bad. We have to be.
Probably
yeah.
global warming at some point in his lives will.
Yeah, get
will
to that
be.
state. But
Ours is snow. I'd say is the most extreme thing. Like our ice, like we could get, like we
I mean,
did
don't get me wrong. We have had storms and winds blowing this month,
We
but
have.
nothing to the extreme of actually.
several power cuts because of it. Thankfully, there have been trees like that gone into people's homes and everything,
Mhm.
but it's just not like a wind tunnel that like literally twists and you can see it.
Yeah.
Like you can hear it and it's all around, but it's not like this massive Tasmanian devil thing.
Mhm.
It's fascinating. It always reminds me of my mum a little bit with this because she loves a good thunderstorm, whereas I'm the opposite. I quite hate it. Like she loves watching like Mother Nature like do its thing. I think sometimes Mother Nature can be very scary because it's the most powerful thing out there. Like, if she's wanting to cause a storm or whatever, for whatever reason it's happening, you don't know what level that's going to be.
No.
I part of me thinks what's scariest. Like, I think for me, like, a tsunami, like, that would be the most petrifying. I can't swim. It's going to be a long, slow death.
Yeah, drowning, the lungs filling up and everything, yeah.
Tornado, it depends on where it hits and which way it goes, and it's quite sporadic. Like,
Yeah, there's
tsunami
you can't really
comes
predict.
in.
It's only really going one way, essentially,
Yeah.
And there's not much, run. Well, it's like, run to where kind of thing, because it's like the size of it and stuff like. Oh, you can get to high ground. That's the best you can do for those situations.
But then you could have a volcano erupt or an earthquake, and they're the same things, because it's like, well, you can't anticipate where the earthquake's going to be. And also, I feel like with an earthquake, yeah, you can go in your bunker, but isn't that worse because it is like on ground level?
Pretty much, yeah.
Because it's going to crack from down beneath.
Yeah, how large it is on the Richter scale and everything. Yeah, it can fluctuate, but
we're so lucky that we live in a country where this is just not a norm for us. We complain when we have snow, and it's like, oh, there's a bit of snow and we can't drive. Whereas, like, these people absolutely love the.
They're on the like storm chasers basically of it. Yeah, they thrive on it.
Adrenaline junkies or whatever you want to call them.
That's it.
Like, I kind of feel these guys would love to go on a massive roller coaster and really enjoy it, or like bungee jump or skydive or something.
Yeah.
Like, you're extremists, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Would this be for me? No. Like, if there's a storm happening, I'm in a bunker somewhere. That's where I would be at.
You'd be like Bill's soon-to-be wife. Yeah,
Thanks.
Yeah, Melissa, who's like, she doesn't get the whole like.
If that's not an insult, because she's like such a horrible character.
No, I mean in the terms of that, she's there going like, why are you even here? Like, hanging around with these people, and it's like you clearly don't enjoy this whole like thing. You're like, oh my god, like screaming.
I would be screaming
in 2 minutes, but
then I think if you were doing that, I'd be like absolutely petrified for your life, because it's like, well, I love you so much, and you're just putting yourself in danger. Like, if you were chasing them, I'd be getting annoyed, because it's like, well, do you not value what we have? Like, you could die any second.
It is a bit odd, the whole situation of that being like part of the main story. Like, Joe and Bill were married, and they're getting signed divorce papers to, for the final settlement of all that. But then he's learning, oh no, actually we are kind of like made for each other kind of thing by the end of it. And I looked up a little bit of like some facts about the film. It is actually supposedly based on the film we watched at the start of the year on our own time, which was His Girl Friday.
Oh, really?
Because of the base of them two.
See it.
They were all married, and it's like, kind of done with each other. But by the end of things, it's like, actually, we do. Actually, why did we kind of separate in the first place?
They've just put it on their head, haven't they? So, for example, they worked in a like a news article place.
Yeah.
And she was the one that wanted out. She was the one who was going to get remarried, and he brought her back in for one last job.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, obviously, Joe is the equivalent of Cary. Is it Cary Grant's character?
Yeah.
Because now she's like, oh, well, I still really want him. I know that if I get him involved in this tornado chase, there might be a possibility.
He's going to be,
And I think this is a side that his future wife's not seen of him. Like, he's normally quite placid, quite calm, whereas now he's getting riled up because there's the competitors, and it's just all this adrenaline that is kind of kept inside. It's just all coming out now. So I do think the reason why they are going where they're going, the reason behind Joe bringing him along, is for a good cause compared to His Girl Friday.
Yeah.
Not saying that they are trying to save a man who's trying to not, like, been killed, like, because he's apparently, has he murdered somebody in His Girl Friday? Like, they're going to kill him.
Yeah.
Basically,
that's
aren't they?
The story. Yeah.
That's the story, but they're only doing it for their own, like, getting the article in the newspaper,
scoop,
like a paparazzi kind of thing. Whereas this is to do with the tornadoes, so that you can...
Yeah, like getting the information so that you can, like, save lives ahead of time, get people prepared for an incoming storm, as it were.
So, like, instead of having 3 minutes of, like, oh, you need to get to your bunker in 3 minutes,
and grab your
you've
things,
got 15 minutes where you've got more time
to get away,
So I think... But no, now you said it, that's really interesting, that is. Done some research.
I have, a couple of notes,
I've really, like, I've not even thought about it that way, like, to think it was even similar, like, that didn't even enter my head.
No, I only brought that up because of the fact that, like, why is there the whole this kind of story? Why it could have simply just been two people who were like, oh, they're kind of like casually like friends, and then kind of, you know, like,
Yeah.
oh, will they, won't they, kind of thing of that nature, or you know, like a rival kind of thing. Like there is another team who were like, oh, we've got the better technology to do the readings and all that stuff, and they could be like, oh, yeah, again, like pitting against each other, but then eventually they work together and then they fall in love or whatever.
I think it works as well because he knows Jo so well. He knows like why she's doing it. So obviously, the main thing is Jo is that little girl
At the start of the
screaming
film.
for Toby, and her dad like gets taken by the storm, and that's like her kind of drive to
A motivation to make sure people are safe in these situations, that these tornadoes are happening.
Yeah, and I think like she does say like quite emotionally at the back end, like, why does the tornado pick what house like to impact? And I think she took it quite personal, like the tornado was out to get her.
Yeah, like it's some kind of like monster, something like, you know, like a serial killer or something, like, you know, like Michael Myers from Halloween or something like that. Yeah, that making a natural disaster a like physical monster in that sense.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
and especially when you're so young as well, seeing it like that must be quite traumatic. Like to know that something like that's taken away your dad, and it's scary.
There's almost like nothing you can do about it. Yeah,
No.
Yeah.
As scary as it is, and like you don't actually know if you assume he's dead. He could have got swept off and landed somewhere else, but he might stay alive. But you don't know how long he's suffered for either. Like that's the awful bit. Like, did they find his body ever to actually bury him?
I think you take it rough with the smooth on that and assume that it's
But you don't even know like if she's had that closure. Like it's like normally it's hard for anyone to kind of come to terms unless you actually know that person's passed away, and you can kind of see some form of evidence, like apart from being blown away. Like, and then I think as well, it's then kind of competing between the two. Obviously, you've got this Melissa character who is the new wife to be.
Yeah,
she's very prim and proper.
Yeah,
she's
a therapist.
Yeah, but for what?
A reproductive therapist.
She keeps talking about penises, and it's really bizarre. And it's just like,
of all things, you shouldn't just be a therapist. You have to be something really out there.
Yeah, and she seemed like she had a Dolly Parton kind of country-ish twang, but not in a good way.
The location's set in like Oklahoma, the southern state
you
side.
like the southern accent, though, you were saying recently.
Yeah.
How did we find this
one? Not so great with that. I think it's just how her character was. Again, you kind of not supposed to really attach yourself to her, like to be likeable, really.
She's a bit of a bimbo, wasn't she? Even though Jo was blonde and she was brunette, you'd normally class a bimbo as blonde back in those movies, but Jo had a lot more character and oomph about her. She was not your typical cliche woman back then. Like she seemed to be passionate and had drive and was independent. And if anything, she'd created the Dorothy without, what's his name?
Bill.
Well, if I remember Melissa, but I don't remember Bill. And she kind of like he quits, and I think that's something that he always does. Like he never finishes anything.
Yeah, she says that. Yeah.
And I think that's where, like, instead of, like, the communication, they could have had this before they'd done the divorce papers. Like, she could have said, oh, well, actually, you never finish anything. You always have to go into the new thing, a new job. And then she's holding back on this grudge of the tornado, like, taking a loved one. So she's obsessed with getting this Dorothy functioning.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing, like, she's blindsided. Like, she'd kill herself just to get this
pretty much
done.
Yeah.
Like, there's many scenarios where they are near enough at near death by a tornado because they want to give more people the opportunity and chance. I think some of the near-death experiences are realistic. However, some of them, especially towards the back end, I'm like, no.
He did say.
You would be dead. And I think this was the bit where it was like, this is kind of too extreme. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, they went into a barn and it looked like there was loads of, like, chainsaw massacre kind of things.
Yeah,
and it looked a bit grim.
Expecting Leatherface to just pop up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, they got out of there somehow, you know, they were fine. Like, if there's a massive wind, they were running fine. They weren't, like, getting blown over or anything. Yeah. And then they found this, like, water pipe that was, like, in the ground, which is fair. But however, they were clinged on by leather belts. Like, I know leather is sturdy, but if a massive tornado that's meant to be like...
Yeah, picking up cars and
Yeah.
tankards, you know.
Think it can break a piece of leather. It's picking up a full cow, for God's sake. Like, never mind breaking a leather belt.
Yeah.
And I just seem...
Almost like a bit cartoony in that sense, isn't it?
Yeah, like they were flying
like,
up in the
almost
air.
like hanging on to like a flower or something. And that's like, oh, that's somehow holding me
just
grounded.
Didn't make sense. And then the way that it ended was a little bit like you could see that they were going to kiss and they didn't kiss, and you could see, and then they just started having a full-on make-out session when everyone arrived, and I'm just like, no, you wouldn't do that, would you? You do it in your own time.
I think, again, for the schmaltziness of the, like, yeah, we got what we needed to do, and then it's like, oh, it's like a romantic moment, and it's like, oh, we're actually getting back together type of thing. And
but the fact is, they were getting piss wet through by the water sprinkle. They near enough died, and just like sat there, piss wet through, kissing, and I'm thinking, realistically, like I know we had to hug you, but then I'd be like, right, let's get off this, and then like I'd kiss you stood up instead of getting wet.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I know obviously it's trying to be cinematic and give like a
but,
really good vibe, but at the same time I'm like
they just don't care. They just care about each other. That's all it's.
But I just didn't get that. I just didn't think it was portraying that. I just thought it was like, oh right, this is the end, and it ended very like
matter of fact.
Yeah, but it was It was quite long, wasn't it? It wasn't.
It was like a 2-hour film.
Yeah, and I feel like I think this is my problem with an action. It is kind of like an action film. Like it was stunning, and do think.
Do you think the special effects held up? Yeah,
I think so. Apart from the random cow swirling in.
Yeah, that did look a bit odd, and maybe a couple of bits at the back end probably not so great. But overall, like I said, like when I was mentioning about the green skies and everything, like that did like really look like, oh yeah, I totally believe that would happen.
How did they create the twisters?
They used the special effects team that was used for when they worked on Jurassic Park. Okay. Steven Spielberg was one of the executive producers on this, so obviously he had the team from that brought over almost to like, well, we kind of know how to do these special effects now in a semi-realistic way, so we can implement this in that, and that's how it comes across. So I think this was obviously the big selling point for the film. You aren't really here for the characters, as it were. It's like that's what you can see, the spectacle of that without doing that, and also the sound on playing back on the system was like, we just got like a basic just off the TV. We haven't even got like a big subwoofer or anything like that, but it did kind of like boom and rattle with like the audio mix on that was really good. So, but apparently, when in the theaters, that it was so like loud and vigorous, it actually like broke the system in some theaters because it was that like just earth shattering. Yeah. So.
I do think it is really impressive, but I think this sounds really, really bad. I think it comes to my action things. Like, once you've seen one twister, like, it's the same thing.
Hence, it's like, why is there twisters film in 20 years or later?
Yeah. And you're just a bit like, when it got to the stage 5 twister, it was like, yeah, okay.
It's like the final boss is going to be something super epic.
If anything, it got worse, and I was just a little bit like... Well,
what did? Sorry.
Not the actual twister, but it did, because like they were picking up like cows and shit, and then at one point I'm thinking, don't you dare put a horse in that mix. I don't know why the horse would have upset me more than the cow.
Away, he was fine, yeah.
But then there were like this scene where like they were running the horses, and it just didn't look legit. Like it didn't look like the perspective of the horse, how close it was.
Yeah.
It just didn't. It looked like there was overlays and stuff, and it just didn't look right.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just a bit like, they're trying to throw a lot into this, but actually they're doing too much. And then I think...
there was the instance, I think, probably just before that, where there's like a tree that kind of gets lodged between the truck, and they're trying to move away from it. I think that didn't look particularly great, except when obviously it was really close up, but with just the digital shot of it coming towards them, it's like, oh, that's a bit rough. Ropey, yeah. And then it's like, oh, we got to move out of the way, and then like there's the tanker, so like comes sort of hurtling towards them, thinking, well, yeah, shit, you're going to be getting clobbered here, like with that. But that somehow just that knocks them out of the way, and then they're safe. Then the explosion happens. It's like, what the?
Yeah, they get a lot of close calls where it's like they should be dead by now.
Yeah.
Obviously, we do have that rivalry, which he does die.
Yeah, Jonas. He's referred to as the Nightcrawler, which I now know what that means. Like he's like the one who kind of, obviously when we did the covered the film Nightcrawler, where it's, they're taking an opportunity to get what he needs, but it's like no matter what the cost, really, kind of thing.
And he's normally copying.
Yeah,
Bill,
which he does. Yeah, apparently. Yeah.
And he's doing it on purpose to like wait until he moves and then he'll move, and it's like it's a bit sleazeballish.
Yeah, or is that corporate, like he's got the funding and backing behind it to,
but no knowledge,
sponsorship. Yeah.
It's not really
and
the
so
case.
they kind of like following Bill and the gang to things. Oh no, we'll go that way, and
they've gone that way. We'll go that way.
Right.
And it's like, use your own initiative. So when he died, I was like, actually, like, you deserve it. And it sounds awful, but it's like it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Like, karma had got you. Obviously, we meet Joe's auntie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's happened to her mum. Like, we only know her dad died, so I don't know then where her mum is, or if she's not in the same place, or what. It seems strange that then there's just this random auntie. It would make more sense if it was her mother.
I guess so. It would. But anyway, I wasn't there going questioning why. I think it's more just like, the aunt that's kind of like there to feed the troops and everything like that. And like one of the favourite characters, I suppose favourite actors as well, like Dusty, who's played by Philip Seymour Hoffman, and he's the one who's kind of like the lovable goof kind of thing, and he's like the one who's like, yeah, come on everybody, like.
It gave me Alan from Hangover vibes a little bit, and then there was somebody else, and I can't remember what it was. Another movie, but he's like the character that you wouldn't date.
Yeah, he's just a fun like jokester kind of guy. Yeah.
But then I think Melissa gets put with him quite a bit.
Yeah.
To her dismay, like
yes, like you're riding with me kind of thing. It's like what?
Yeah, it's like I should be with Bill, his soon-to-be husband. Yeah. That was a bit where I was like, I don't know how she carried on for so long, like did Melissa, because if that was you and you were like had an ex-wife or whatever, or you were getting divorced and you were remarrying me, I'd clearly see that I was getting in the way, and I would have bowed out gracefully a lot sooner. I'd have just been like, I'm not chasing another twister. This is traumatic. You clearly don't love me because you just shoved me in a car with some random man, and now you're off trundling with your ex-wife. Like, straight away I'd be like, no.
Alarm bells ringing, yeah.
And literally, the second twister that came, I'd have been like, you're taking my truck, right? I don't think so. I'm going home. And I'd left you with her. Like, I would have not carried on. Like, and I just think, well, bless her for trying, I guess.
It was like the third strike, isn't it? Pretty much, kind of like that's it. I'm done now.
Yeah, but
for the story
she even
purposes.
Went for the meal with like the aunt, and she could see that she was so overwhelmed. She didn't know.
Yeah,
and it kind of gives me vibes of My Best Friend's Wedding.
Right.
Yeah, have you seen that yet?
Yeah. We have. We just haven't covered it or anything, but we've just seen it.
And it's obviously you've got Julia Roberts and Cameron Diaz.
Yeah,
and it's Cameron Diaz's character where she's a baby a little bit. She's more young, naive. She loves him so much, but like she doesn't fit in with his crowd of friends and stuff like that. And you can see like she's out of it. But in the end, he still really loves her and picks her. But I think that's how I kind of see this Melissa character, because she's quite more prim and proper and dressed up.
White shoot. Like not a speck of dirt on her somehow, even in all this. Yeah, like mud flying around and no.
Whereas
no
like
marks.
the Julia Roberts character was more like Joe in the sense like she was more rough and ready, but I think she was more like just growing as a woman more in the 90s, like instead of being like this prim and proper yes wife, which I think Melissa would have been, and I think that's why he'd have been like a weatherman. He would have not carried on his career. He'd have just been like settling down, I guess. But I just, I just think she should have got a bit more of a backbone sooner. I think I'd have respected her more if she'd have gone on your bike, mate, quicker. But I think the only thing for me is I do like the characters. I love Jo as a character. I do think she's like really good at empowering a woman and thinking in the 90s, like, wow, she's chasing after these like twisters and such. But at the same time, I'm like, the dialogue's all right.
Yes, there's nothing like they're going, oh yeah, that's really impactful. Like
it
what you're saying. It's just, like I said, like a product of the 90s, and it's like the typical blockbuster type of thing. And you're just there to just get to point A to point B and just move around.
And I think if it was the 90s, I would have really like appreciated this and probably loved it. But now I'm like,
after opening up on so many other
yeah.
films and genres and stuff like this, it's just yeah.
And I think for me, it's just the action part of it. It is like an action film. It is like once you've seen some punching, once you've seen one twister, it's like monotonously the same.
It's not gonna like unless maybe this is what happens in Twisters, where it's like one twister and then it sort of like splits and becomes three.
There was two twisters, wasn't there? Like
but like in some kind of like surprise, like that's what the turn of events are going to be. Make it interesting because it's like I say, like here's another one coming. It's like what we're going to do. Not going to like use a flamethrower or anything like that to stop it or anything like that. It's just
well, that's the truth. It's like at least with I don't really know what you could do. Like, at least if it was a fire, you could put it out with water.
Yeah.
Like with wind, what would it be in Pokemon Paul? Ground? I don't know.
So for flying types, it's lightning or electric, rock.
I don't get the rock one.
Not going to bird out of the sky, basically. That's the logic. Yeah,
but you wouldn't with a twister.
No, I know. You just pick it up and ice, freeze it.
Okay.
Which,
So I need like an ice
a blizzard.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, to come
I wonder
along.
if that'd actually really work.
I don't know. Maybe that's what they need to implement.
Everyone have like ice guns. I think though, for this film, like if I was going to compare it to like any other disaster film that I've seen, I don't think I've seen many. I think what's the one where
The Day After Tomorrow?
Yeah, it's like final, like if that makes sense, like the world's gonna end kind of thing. Instead,
I do vaguely remember seeing that film, but I cannot remember how it ends. If it's like if everything just sort of works out or not, I can't really remember.
Or like a zombie apocalypse or something like that. Like it's like literally like
that's it. We're all done before. Yeah.
And the one that I would say, like for example, is like a Monster March film is the Japanese Is it Godzilla?
Yeah, Godzilla. Yeah.
Which kind of feels like a disaster film.
Yeah.
The one that you said was like your film of the year for was it
2023? Yeah. Because I mean, he is like the more monster metaphor for like the obviously like atomic energy and like disasters. Essentially, that's what a lot of the monster films are really in that sense. Like a physical, like I can see he's got like arms, legs, face, and everything like that, and that's what causing these disasters and stuff. Like from let's swear we've said this. I've said this before about how myths of and Greek mythology and stuff like that, where like the gods are angry, but it's just a thunderstorm because they couldn't explain it otherwise. Because that kind of thing. I
think though, like that seems more impactful, but I think it's possibly because they are just trying to live their everyday life. Mm-hmm. So like you do feel sorry for the characters, whereas like if any one of these did die, like I would say it's their own fault for putting themselves in that risky situation. Like it's inevitable that could happen and they could die because there was many near misses where I did actually think he should be dead by now. And I think that's when you kind of don't really, you're rooting for him, but you're not, because at the same time they're putting themselves in a stupid situation. And like where that car was at the first one where they missed and they were underneath the bridge, all the panels go and then they're just holding on to this wooden plinth bit.
And then that doesn't get taken up as well. I'm thinking that totally would.
Yeah.
Like there'd be no stopping it and just like everything would be literally ripped up, but apparently not. It was again for almost like plot armor basically in the sense of that, just so that they could continue doing what they're doing. I guess it was a bit of like how many Dorothys they had. It's a bit like, oh, not again, it's just fallen over and all the little pods of the digital recorder things have fallen out. And
I just didn't get why they just didn't chuck them in.
Better swing.
Well, yeah. Like, exactly the time where they were like having a
get one of those tennis ball cannon things.
Why
fire
did they
them out.
just do that? Like, I don't get why they needed such a big body thing to carry all the balls when all the little balls that mattered.
I think it's more for an accurate reading they had to do, because there needs to be a lot of information to get the sort of like that swirling effect. I think it wouldn't be very accurate.
Because when she dropped them all and they like had this like final near miss, and you didn't think they were going to try again, like you're just like, no, we can still do it. And she's picking them all up. I'm like, just wang them in, like,
you son of a bitch.
Yeah, just get them done.
Just chucking them there. Yeah,
that's what I'd have done.
All right, noted.
They lost my tether at that point.
I don't know if I think you're probably walking in and out of the room at this point, but I would obviously when I first saw the film, I wouldn't have really twigged on what the film was when there's the scene at the drive-in before like the tornado hits her aunt's house in that area and everything, or approaching, and there's a screening of The Shining playing on.
Oh, does that give it brownie points, Paul?
It's like, yep. Well, no, I should say no because like the tornado hit just as the point when Jack was like smashing the door down. The access
in the bathroom.
Yeah. She was like, "Oh, come on, that's not the best bit. Like, couldn't you just wait to the end of the film to?" Like, I'd be sitting there going, "Right, no, just hang on, just let me just see this out," and then I'll run away.
There's a tornado coming.
This is one of the best parts of the film. Like,
you just sat there and you get swept up
Yeah.
seats.
Worth it.
Deck you. Be dragging you and turning it off, saying you've seen The Shining so many times, you know what happens.
Well, the tornado did turn it off, didn't it? Because it smashed through the screen, but...
Yeah, I'd be dragging you away though, you'd be like, but what?
How dare you? I wonder if it was Singing in the Rain playing, you'd be like...
No, I'd be over it. I'd be like, it's fine, like, I don't want to die.
Fair enough.
Value my life more.
But I don't know if you were in that point, either like, were you like worried about the aunt like surviving that situation, or did you think, it's going to be a typical sense of, she might be injured, but she'll be okay, kind of?
I feel like,
like,
you know what the movie is you're getting.
Yeah, that's what I say.
We'd already had one death of the bad guy, and
no, I think that was after that.
Oh yeah, but I feel like you had the dad die. You're not gonna have any more trauma like from it. Like,
I mean, there's a dog at the aunt's house as well, and you're probably thinking, no, that's not gonna die either.
I think it's one of those things where it's like initially at the end, I did think, oh, actually, would it be more poetic if they had been like died, like the couple, but they got all the data into
and the legacy lives on.
Yeah,
type of
like
thing.
Would that have been more poignant than the water splashing into him from the whatever it was, and them just kissing tied to this water main?
What? So they'd be in the eye of the storm, and they'd be like holding hands, like "I love you," and then like, whoa, and then just get blown away, and that's it. And then how would it end then? Like, what would the guys come like? Where have they gone? Type of thing. Like,
no, that'd just be it. Like,
all right, okay.
They'd just be dead.
They'd just be dead. Right, okay.
Because it did end abruptly, didn't it? Because like, well, we could have seen the lab or whatever they spoke about and all of that instead of running after shitty tornadoes all the time.
The film was long enough; it didn't need to go on.
I think that the amount of tornadoes could have been cut down. I know it's called Twister, but 3 is like enough, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's called Twisters in the Twister film, but it wasn't just one Twister.
I can't actually even watch that because you know what it's like today. Probably going to be like 2.5 hours long.
Probably, I don't know.
Literally be just running after every Twister. You'll be about 10 Twisters in it, and it'll be like, for God's sake. Yeah. Once you've seen one Twister, you've seen them all. It's the same thing. It's just a massive piece of wind. It's like Pidgey.
Piece of wind.
It's
gust of wind.
Pidgey just doing gust.
Whirlwind, yeah.
Like, literally, that's it. And I know it's traumatic if you're in that environment, but, like, literally that's all it is, isn't it?
I guess you can, as outsiders of not knowing what it's really like for that.
Don't get me wrong, it's traumatic, and I know that. Like, I'd be shitting myself if it were me out in that environment. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to put myself in an environment where I'm going to chase after them.
No, neither would I, to be honest. I'd just sit from a distance and just run the opposite as far away as
I'd be getting a bunker. I'd be one of those psychos. If I lived in America, I'd have a massive bunker. And I'd have, like, tins, and I'd be one of those people, like, you'd film me because how great my bunker would be, like, a survival bunker.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'd have to be, because I'd be that... Like, we had a power cut, and I went to the extreme of buying a kettle that I can put on the hob, because I was like, I don't want to not be able to have a cup of tea. Like...
God forbid.
Exactly. Like, so I'm like... And then I was like, and then we can have hot water bottles and fill them up if it's cold, and...
Yeah.
You do know I would go to that extreme if we... But then, if it was that kind of film, like a survival film from the Twisters, I think I'd appreciate it more. Like when we were saying with Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
Because you feel for them then, because it's like, well, oh, bless them. Yeah. They're in this environment they can't control.
Yeah.
All they want to do is survive.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think I'd be more empathetic.
I'll get that. But yeah, I obviously going in with the expectation, I'm not thinking, oh, yes, it's going to be blow my mind, like, from... for the couple of times I will have seen it in the past. But yeah,
So have you've seen this one before?
yeah. Obviously, yes, yeah.
And how did it hold up in the 4K? Did that make a difference in watching it, or did it make you look a bit worse with like the cows?
Well, as I mentioned earlier on, like some of it, yeah, it did kind of look a bit like, eesh, yeah, not so great. But generally, I couldn't like fault for just obviously this is normally the case with older films anyway. Even just like seeing people in much higher definition, just shot with those like older like 35mm cameras and everything like that. It's always going to look much more pristine than actually shooting what's shot digitally and then converted to 4K or whatever. Yeah, so I can't really complain about that. I think definitely the sound was one of the bigger selling points of the rumbles and everything like that, which also you might find this bizarre and maybe not, but some of the sounds they use like animal noises to kind of like give that sort of like more, let's say, animalistic effect to like it's like a creature of something.
Animals.
The one of them being a camel's moan, like really slowed down, like like a low rumble kind of thing, and that's because there was a couple of times where it's almost like the tornadoes are like roaring.
Yeah, I did think a lion.
Yeah, I think that the lion was also used as well, like for that. It's in the mix as well, so it's kind of like a personifying it a little bit more. So it's a bit like, oh my god, it's coming like to get me, kind of
the creature coming out and getting you.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that's like a massive selling point. That I'm going to score it really highly because of that.
Well, we may as well go to the scoring now then. I think unless you've got anything else to.
No,
to
it
bring
is what
up.
it is, isn't it? It's a film about twisters and a couple rekindling.
Is it a film you've seen?
No. Well, it's just a film that's there, isn't it?
And see what happy that they got together at the end.
You could see it coming from a mile off, couldn't you? Pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, no surprise.
Except you wanted them to just die in the tornado, so you...
Who have you made me become? When would I ever say that?
I know.
I would never say that.
Yeah.
Normally.
Right, so score time. And don't worry, I'm not going to be like, oh, what? How could you give it such...
I think the storyline's okay. Like, it is like a 90s, so there is a bit of nostalgia. And back then when I was little, I would have probably loved it. Like, for the 90 vibe that I would have got. Like, it would have been something my family would have put on and we would have watched, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the storyline is just, it's as simple as it is, and it is what you get, and there's just twisters and you follow them around.
Yep.
Is there anything really, like, outstanding? I find hard to say, oh, well, this shot was amazing, or this was,
or
anything like that. Like, I could even say Nosferatu's, like, shots were very creative, even though I absolutely hate it, because it absolutely petrifies me. I can say when something is shot...
Yeah, more cinematically. And yeah.
Credit where it is
artistically,
due. Yeah. This was just point and shoot.
It
wasn't...
Yeah, when I think, oh, let's frame it that way, and like,
no,
it means something like metaphorically or anything.
Acting wise was like Helen Hunt is good. Like she's not, but she is. I feel like just back then you were that kind of character. Like she would have been the same character in What Women Want. She was quite strong and empowered character then. It's just like Jennifer Aniston when she was like shoehorned into the Rachel era for quite a while.
The type of roles that she did, yeah.
I think generosity. If I said a 5.5, I think that's been generous.
I think that's fair to say, really, based on what it is, really. Probably not too far off, really, I think. I'm going to probably go 6.5, really. Honestly, I think, as I said, it sounds, it's more for the sound mix that's the 0.5, really. Like, that felt like more oomph with it, really, from probably whenever I saw it, we're really like the bog standard, like, no mix and everything like that, and yes, as we said, the story is very plain and simple. It really just kind of ticks the box of like a typical action blockbuster of the time, and you're just there for the spectacle of what these characters are doing to pursue the tornadoes and everything like that. But yeah, it's nothing like, oh yeah, I can't believe I haven't. Yeah,
and it's not like
in the collection or anything like that. I think it's
going forward. I'm going to rewatch this.
I think it's I don't think I'd be like very unlikely I'll come back to this anytime soon, and I don't know unless people can say, oh yeah, go check out Twisters, I don't think I'm not very curious to see what that's all about, so Unless you can say otherwise, listeners, then...
No, I agree. I don't think I'd be going out of my way to seek it.
So, thank you very much for listening to this episode. If you want to check out some of our other episodes, you can do so by going to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you get podcasts from. And as always, we'd always appreciate 5-star reviews over on those platforms as well to get up in the rankings and all that.
Definitely. So if you haven't already and you want to follow us on social media, then you can like, subscribe, and do all of that, whatever follow stuff is now. We are on pretty much every social media platform. So we're on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, under the handle SP_filmviewers. And then we are on Blue Sky, which is just SP filmviewers without the underscore. So hit all those buttons and follow. We also have, Paul's been starting doing a lot on the YouTube channel, which is SP_filmviewers. He's released a new one for
what I've watched / what we've kind of watched reviewed and watched in January. So appreciate any feedback on that from what if you watched the video, and obviously like and subscribe if you've not already, because I hope to keep doing some more of those, because it's quite a good way to sort of like reflect on what I've watched, like if it's diverse enough or.
It's nice actually having you able to talk and get a word in edgeways as well, if I'm not on it, to be fair.
If it's just me, me in the moment, we're doing that. But the YouTube channel, SP Film Viewers, just search that. And we'd also like to thank patrons, of course, for their continuing support.
So if you do want to become a Patreon, then you will get to vote once a month and get your shout out every week. So you could just need to go to patreon.com/SP Film Viewers. And then you can sign up for that, and it's £1 a month or $1.50, which just goes to a good little cause and helps have a variety of people picking films that I'd watch instead of mainly male orientated.
So we're going to read out the people who are part of the Patreon family already, who are All Hail King Rhino, who's the newest Patreon. Mark from 100 Things You Learned from Film. Ben from Ben Push Pull Health, formerly Film Vloggers. And Nico from the Good, the Bad and Weird podcast. And those are other podcasts and channels that you should go and check out.
100%. Yeah. It's like our little podcast families, isn't it? We've then got our wonderful friends and family. So we've got Gren under the handle @Gren_draw on Instagram. We've got Shani and Alex, who are also on Instagram under the handles Desperately Seeking Username and SDOG.
We've also got Jonesy and Emma, who are @WeightLossJonesy and M_Hayton, respectively. And of course, your mum, who isn't on the socials. Thank you, everybody, for your continuing support. It means a great deal to us.
It does, it really does. And especially when they pick a good Patreon pick. Really value them then. I think they saved me at Christmas and didn't give me a nasty one, and then obviously in Jan they did pick the crappiest option. I think I got it bitten in my arse again. Yeah. But all good for a good cause of a good episode.
Yeah, that's right. That's what we like,
Not me going on my high horse like the Titanic.
Yeah. So thank you very much for listening to this episode once again. And we'll speak to you next time.
Speak to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.